Hello, I'm back.
Ryan's back, everybody.
He's back.
Welcome back. He's healed. We're happy to have him. It's a good week. It's been a good week, I think so, right? Ryan just did the Laugh Factory. How was that?
It was great. I got to perform in front of Paul Rodriguez. That was fun.
Oh, yeah, that was
That's
crazy.
what's up.
So there's a show at the Laugh Factory called Spanglish that's like Paul Rodriguez's, not the skater. Everybody, you know what's so funny? As comics, like I've known the name Paul Rodriguez since I was a kid. But whenever I talk to people, they're like, the skateboarder? I'm like, no, his dad. And they're like, he has a dad? But anyway.
Yeah, it was fun. I did great. The moment I couldn't hear. Okay, I knew that he was laughing at one specific bit where I made fun of my mom, and I thought that was really cool. It was the one where I call her short.
Right. Yeah, it was cool. Did you get to talk to him at all?
Nah, I got the sense that
He does one fucking Latino show and he's like,
Yeah.
nah, fool, that fool barely stayed there, fool.
But imagine.
Imagine if I did talk to him. That'd be pretty crazy.
But yeah, he bounced like literally right after his set. He went out the secondary exit.
He just went right outside.
Legitimately, like I think stopped to say hi to some lady that he had interacted with while he was on stage.
That was wild because he was just started his set and was like, how are you doing? And she's like, I have pictures of you when you were a little boy.
I
It was
know,
a little
yeah.
creepy.
She was like, read them. Read
them.
I took notes about your size. No.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think
he
it was like a
"Nah."
neighbor.
That was his birth mom, imagine.
It says I'm your mother. And he was like, no, I'm not reading these.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
going to read them off stage. But he talked to her and then literally just like walked out. But it was fun. I got to talk to the other comedians. It's been a minute since I actually like was able to perform on stage. A lot of the shows they did last year were like house shows and like not backyard shows, but they were like at bars, but they were outside on the patio, which is a very different vibe.
I'm planning on going pretty hard with comedy this year. I want to do more mics, more shows. I want to do
I feel you.
some traveling. I've met a lot of comics through just like taking photos at Chatterbox, and I think like it would be cool to like go and like out of state and do shows again. And that's the crazy thing about comedy is like it's easier to get booked on shows out of town than it is in LA. Like it's so hard to get stage time out here, but it's like if you can travel, like if you have connections somewhere, then they help you get booked. Anyway,
Yeah.
a little inside baseball. But yeah, it was a great week. Ryan fucking crushed it at the Laugh Factory. I was really proud of him. I like texted. We have like a family group chat with all of our cousins, and I like went to the restaurant. I was like, Ryan crushed. It was great.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I got a free hot chocolate.
Is that
That's
what
the
Actually,
hot
that-
chocolate is for crushers?
there was a funny moment where there was a female comedian. She was like 2 after me. And after I sit down, while the next guy is up, before her set, she comes up to me and she puts her purse down and she's like, I'm sorry to bother you, but can you watch my purse while I'm on stage? Just make sure no one fucks with it. And, you know, I'm autistic. I have 3 neurodivergencies and I'm blind. So for anyone to trust me that way just feels big.
the biggest part of Ryan's night was responsibility.
So I'm
You
like,
trust me?
absolutely. I'm happy to do it. And so she sets her purse down and I'm watching it. And then right after, she hasn't left her seat yet. The waitress comes by and I've had a few. So without thinking, I order hot chocolate. And that on its own was like not a big deal, but I think it's how I reacted to the waitress's next question. Because I'm like, she goes, "Can I get you anything?" And I go, "Yes, actually, can I get a hot chocolate?" And she goes, "Yes. Would you like whipped cream?" And she said it like that, and I was like, oh, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
And then immediately, without saying anything, the lady took her purse back and gave it to Paul Rodriguez.
That's so funny.
That's
hilarious.
I'm not going to leave my purse with this child.
She's like, oh,
You
sorry.
can eat all my mints.
I'm never I'm not good at those interactions, like those folksy interactions with people. I'm not made for those like small talk, like servers, door people, like drivers.
I'm pretty decent with it. I like doing
You're
it's
great
fun.
at it.
I like having fun with people in an old timey way.
Yeah,
Acting
like
old timey.
one time I was on a date and then we went to Funky Soul at the Echo.
Funky Soul.
Yeah, I love that.
What's that?
It's a dance party.
Yeah, it's a really cool. I think it's at Zebulon now, but it's like they spin vinyl. It's all DJs and it's like deep cut, like soul, R&B.
It's a disco.
Jazz, disco.
Isn't it like a fun dance party?
Yeah.
Isn't that where
Funk.
a friend of ours had her birthday?
Yeah, Julia had her birthday there.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. I danced for the first time
But
ever.
anyway, so
Oh shit. weird drop, but yeah.
yeah.
I did the mashed potato. Nobody could see it.
You ordered the mashed potatoes?
No, I did the mashed potato.
So the folksy thing I was talking about was I was going into Funky Soul and I was on a date with somebody and it was going well. We had just come from a different place and we're like, let's go to Funky Soul and dance. That'll be fun. And so I'm going in and the bouncer's like checking my stuff and I emptied my pockets and I had a pack of gum and he was like, oh, do you mind if I grab one? And I was like, I'm gonna turn it on right now. And I'm like, yeah, man, take two. and then he goes, is that bad, huh? And I'm like, what are you doing to me, guy? Right in front of my girl?
That's what yeah. That's playful banter, dude. He was still in it.
Yeah. I was prepared for the 1-2
Oh,
and
I
not
get
the
it.
third. I was like, I couldn't keep this going. Are you crazy? You're gonna show me up like this? You're gonna embarrass me? Yeah, I can't. I'm like so bad at folksy, like that playful banter. I can't do it.
I'm also bad at it. Our little brother attempts it, but in such a weird way. Like a small example is like we'll go to a fast food place, we'll go through the drive-thru, and they'll be like, "Hello, welcome to
Jack in the Box.
How are you doing?" And he'll be like, "I'm doing great. How are you doing?" I'm like, "No, this is not the place where we ask them questions." Like what it is he'll respond with a normal phrase, but in a complete deadpan. So they'll be like, "How are you doing?" And they're like, "Great. How are you doing? What's your day like?" And it's creepy.
I'll say a good "How are you" as well at the drive-thru.
Yeah. It's hard for me to figure it out because, like, at the drive-thru, you can't go much longer than that because they're being timed. They're like, I got 40 seconds to get you out of here.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that high pressure anymore, man. I went to a Wendy's the other day and it was like the most crazy situation. I pulled up to the window to pay. There was a 2-window situation. I pulled up to the window to pay and the first guy was like, "How's it going?" And I was like, "It's going good." And usually that's it. You know what I mean? And he was like, "Great day out." And he was like, "Ready for the holidays?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "How long does it take to charge my card?" You know what I mean? But he was like, "Only 9 days till Christmas. Can't wait." And I was like, "All right." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, these guys are having a good time." I pulled up to the next window, and the guy who brought my drink, like I'd see him walking up with my drink, and then he opened the window. He's like, $500. And I was like, what the heck? And then behind him, I could see like a manager and one of the employees trying to get the perfect sounding high five clap.
Well, Leave It to Beaver fucking.
I was like, damn, I just got that pay raise.
Actually,
It'd be funny if you're like there. He's like keeps asking you questions, and you try to drive away, and your car's on cinder blocks.
The tree is off in a trick.
I was gonna say that reminded me. There is like I never remember when it is, but there's a time when a lot of franchises are having their like employee giveaway, employee of the month competitions. So once in a while you'll go into the drive-thru and this dude just like turns it on. I can't do the voice, but it's like he's trying to sell
The
you.
Del Taco guy.
No.
I've experienced a Del Taco guy like that.
Oh yes. For some reason I thought you meant like the old mascot.
No. The guy at Del Taco by Chatterbox. On the way home, he'd always be like, "Welcome to Del Taco. What can I get for you?" Like if he's introducing you to the Price is Right.
I love
Yeah.
it. That's great.
Would you like a lemonade with that? And it's just like That's the only time I love an upsell is at the drive-thru when they're having fun with it. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to call the number on this receipt and tell them your name.
Yeah. And then you get to the window and they're like, here's your food, see you later.
The
funniest.
It was all automated.
That's so funny.
It's some dude in fucking Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Real quick, it's the new year and there's been some news that we want to talk about, a couple of news stories that we're about to get into. But before we do that, because it's the new year, I know we're not prepared for this, but does anybody have any resolutions?
I'm always prepared to go first, but then I realize I'm going to sound like an asshole right now. I don't, right now in my life, believe in New Year's resolutions.
Goals.
I feel like I prefer to remove pressure from my life, but also maintain a strive for wellness. I don't like looking at it as like, well, you got to get done this year. It's more like, this is my short-term, long-term goals. This is what I want for myself and then how I can accomplish it. I do have goals. I just don't like looking at it under the guise of like New Year's resolutions. I think that's silly.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I'm always like, you shouldn't need it. Time is a circle or whatever. Like, it doesn't change because it's a new year or whatever. Like, you should start whenever. But also, if that's what helps you get to the thing, like,
you're dumb. No, I'm just kidding.
No, just use what, I don't know. You keep
I
it
also
up.
have a weird relationship with New Year's because I used to apparently complain a lot about what we call New Year's comics. I was very harsh on them.
Yeah, Ryan one time was pissed because we were all hanging out outside, and it just like whenever the New Year starts, all the open mics are packed, and Chatterbox was like packed to the gills with people returning to comedy, people returning to Chatterbox, and like just a bunch of new people. And it happens a lot where new people are very excited to be there and like be part of the fun, but they don't really know the scene yet.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very rowdy and raunchy, and they also think that like they're the only ones laughing at each other's jokes, and they're all like super edgy and like saying the N-word and like saying slurs and shit. Jesus. And they're all laughing at each other and like, and then somebody like a more seasoned comic will go up and then they don't get anything.
Josh was like, there goes my next set. Huh?
No.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But that's just happened at Chatterbox this past Thursday.
Really? I wasn't there.
I was able to make it.
Real fast. Let me finish this
Yeah.
with Ryan.
Yeah.
It was just like a thing that Ryan came out like. Ryan went up and he had been crushing in December, went to the New Year's mic and like having to sit through people like saying the N-word and saying slurs and shit and like them supporting each other, and then Ryan goes up and bombs, and like we're all hanging outside the Chatterbox. Ryan like bursts out of Chatterbox, and he's like, fucking New Year. What did you say? I fucking hate these first years, and like slammed the door behind him.
What are you in Harry
Well,
Potter?
that was okay. I want to.
He like Andrew Dice Clay pulled a cigarette out of his sleeve and like
Suddenly, I'm wearing a leather jacket.
No respect.
fingerless gloves.
No respect. Thank you.
How was this new one this past week?
There were so many comics. Like, we obviously capped it out, but about like 15 to 20 people didn't get up.
Yeah.
Like, it was standing room only for a while.
Yeah.
It was still a good mic. It ended at like 11 or something. Like, it was.
Oh, they went past.
They went way past. It was fun, but definitely new year, new comic energy too.
Yeah. Did anyone say any slurs?
There was people that were like dancing around it, you know?
There's a lot of people. There's this things people are being creative with being the things that they say. But also, I think the stuff that still gets said is like just shitting on women is the most common thing.
Gross.
Shitting on astrology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just porn.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I think it's funny is you get a lot of people from the IE, and for some reason, IE first years love to come up with nicknames for themselves. My favorite one that we ever got, I don't think it's technically the IE. It's like the desert. They were from Victorville. They went by Trash Box. Yeah, it's just a funny thing, and they'll go up and brandable for no reason. They're all bad at it.
But keep trying. If you're trying to do comedy, believe in yourself and do it.
Don't worry.
I'm genuinely trying to be more supportive.
Yeah, Ryan's a monster, everybody. Ryan is mean, and everybody loves him. They think he's adorable.
Yeah, bullied people bully people.
I'm like Jabba the Hutt. Dude, everyone loves Jabba the Hutt.
Really?
Ooh, shit, Father.
Anyway, I guess nobody has any resolutions. I'm trying to be a better person, and that's as far as I'll
Yeah,
go.
I'm just trying to, like, in the same vein. Like, it's not like specific diet goals or anything like that. It's just like, I just need to eat better so I could, like, do the stuff I want
Yeah.
to do better. I need to take care of myself better.
Really starting to feel the effects of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
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 My resolution is just to be the shit. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
Yeah, left
You
hand.
give me
I
the
mean,
long.
gave
Yeah,
me the
what do
left.
you want me to do?
Yeah, but there was no
I was there to
upswing
support
it.
my
I thought you were
boy.
gonna stare at my hand. It's all right.
That was like, okay, Ricky, hold out
You
your
don't think
hand.
I'm a good friend?
yeah.
This
I think
is
you're
what you
too good
did,
for-
Dominic. You were like,
I mean, it was just the left. I didn't realize you were holding the mic with your right.
this
It's fine.
way.
It's all right.
This is why you got to keep it up hand. It's simple.
That sounded like shit.
Oh. Oh.
No, don't start again. This isn't a Wendy's.
For a second, I just thought Dominic didn't know about restaurants. I was like, you can't have it your way.
That's Burger King.
That was the
okay.
joke, Dominic.
That's funny.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. It's Frosty time.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Dung.
Yum.
That's good.
Okay. Anyway, we got some news stories that we're going to talk about. It's a big thing in California starting January 1st. Just happened. California officially lifted its ban on cruising across the state.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Which was a huge deal in East LA and then Whittier. Like, I mean, the whole SoCal pretty much.
Yeah, I feel like I should have known about this because I don't know it was banned.
Yeah, that's the thing is like I used to, you used to go to car shows and you used to see it. And I remember being a kid. You guys heard about Whittier Boulevard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Definitely.
yeah, like it was a big thing. And my mom used to tell me that's where everybody used to go.
It's
and,
still there.
Oh, really?
yeah. And there's a sign that says no cruising along the road.
Right.
Not anymore.
Yeah, they took down. It's pretty cool. I just saw some videos of them like taking down signs, people celebrating.
Yeah, they were like doing whole gatherings, like not straight up parades, but that was a popular thing that a lot of news coverages were getting videos of just yanking them down, and everyone would cheer like, ah.
Yeah. So I was doing a little bit of research on it. It turns out that like cruising as a culture started like a little bit after World War II, and it people believe it started in SoCal in like with Mexican Chicano.
There's debate in Texas, New Mexico, and SoCal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's different stories for different people, but I think it's because of different pieces of technology. It's gone back and forth. Like they haven't like banned cruising in the 50s, but they banned certain things that like lowrider people were doing.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like
Marijuana.
a blanket.
No,
Well, cruising is like a blanket term in California, right? Like the ban. I don't
Right.
think it was like.
I'm more talking about lowriding than I am cruising.
Oh, low riding is that's a different thing, for sure. Because cruising is just about cars in general, and part of it was low riders, but it was also muscle cars, and then later on like vans and trucks.
From what I understand,
Classics.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
From what I understand, specifically in California, that was the correlation that led to the ban. Was its affiliation with lowriders and the consistent, according to the people that drawn up the ban, a consistency in the affiliation with lowriders and gang activity.
Yeah. So so in a nutshell, what started to happen was it was a youth culture thing, and like kids started like fixing up their cars. They got their driver's license and they would like hang around and like talk to people. It sounds really cool. People are showing off their cars, and you would dress up to go to Whittier Boulevard or to Sunset Boulevard or wherever you went to like the cruising spot. and like it was just like a big block party essentially with like cars going up and down and cruising. And it became like a very social thing. These teens and young people would go to like restaurants and like local businesses in the area, or they would like start somewhere and end another place. And it was just like a big block party. And like the stuff that I was reading was like, this is where people would like share fashion and share music and art and stuff like that. But yeah, it started with like, you know, teenagers, young people, they would drink, they would...
It was also part of the post like World War II car culture thing, was because having a car was a sign of wealth. They were like, I got to check out my shit. That's why.
Because they were at war and they got like
car production stopped.
Right.
They were using like the factories to make wartime stuff.
Bombs.
And so like after that, having a car was really expensive and like a pretty flashy thing. And then people were just like, you know, cherry painting it out and getting detailed with it. Mostly Chicanos too. It was a big thing for Southwest culture.
Yeah, it wasn't just the like adjusting the suspensions. It was like a whole thing came from it. Like car shows, local car shows became a thing. Getting your car detailed became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people in our old hometown. There was a dude who I don't remember if he's still around today, but I know that his sons took over. But he was the spot.
He used to pinstripe, like candy stripe cars.
Tight.
Even like in our, you know, we never got to see the actual event, but the remnants of that still existed. Like they still had car shows on the weekends and stuff.
It was one of those things where it's like, I didn't know his name, but everybody knew about it. It was part of the community. I used to walk by it every day on my way to high school. And like that was a cool thing too, because this guy used to do everything by hand. Like he would hand paint and airbrush, and he would do those. Have you seen them when they get the long ass like paintbrush and they're doing like stripes and stuff? Like he would do shit like that.
Like the whole side of the car by like one stroke.
Yeah.
Actually, that's wild.
He would do that, and it would take like weeks, months. Like he did this one really cool thing. Like it. I just remember like the one when I was in high school was like forever. He was working on this like purple, like hot rod, and like the hood was like the Joker, and he painted everything, and it was like all like super like glittery, and he made this like cool cloud effect where the Joker was like sprawled out on the hood. It was fucking sick.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
From what I heard, it was also a thing like he was the kind of guy where like you just trusted him to do something cool. You dropped off your car and then whatever he thought of.
Yeah, I like all that pinstriping and that detail work too. It's cool. A lot of it was used to like depict Mexican heritage and like people's individual stories and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing like parents, or you would see fucking Aztec warriors, or the calendar on it, or
It's like it's low key low riding and all that stuff's low key like a protest thing. Like it was a directly combative against hot rods and like speedster cars of the era.
Oh right, because they were all about going fast.
Yeah, and these fools were like, nah, dog, we're gonna go criminally slow.
We're gonna take it easy.
Yeah, we're taking it.
You're gonna wait for us.
They would put like cement bags and bricks in their trunks.
Oh,
and
for
stuff
real?
like that. Yeah, to lower it back in the day and cut their coils. Those are the kinds of things that made it illegal, of like lowering your block and stuff like that. To try and ban it. That before they had actually banned cruising, they were just trying to ban modifications. And then somebody in like the 50s, it was like a war.
Yeah,
like they would ban height things, like the body of your car couldn't go lower than your wheels. And then somebody invented a thing that could raise and lower.
Oh, that's where you got the.
That's
sharing
funny.
patterns. Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's what I was gonna say next. Was like that led to, stuff like that was the reason the mechanics for cruising became a thing, and like inventing hydraulics and stuff.
One of my like faint like core memories was when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I think I was like 4 years old, and it was in El Paso, and my uncle had like a really nice Cadillac, and he had fucking in the back seat, like he had the fucking hydraulics handles, the switches.
Tight.
And so he would like let all the kids like ride around in it. He would drive, and my dad would be like,
That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, it's fun as shit.
yeah.
Oh man, I shouldn't be saying it like that. Yeah, man, that's very fun. I think that stuff's cool.
Did you guys ever have like any uncles or grandparents that were into cars?
Nah, my uncle was into meth. He broke into cars.
Shout out, dude.
Shout out.
The weekend shows were probably the most that I was exposed to it.
Yeah, we used to go to San Bernardino. Used to have a bunch of car shows.
Oh, we probably
By
went to some of the same when we were all little kids.
By the Circus Mall?
Probably, yeah, for sure. My parents were going to a lot of those things.
Yeah.
They were
those were a lot
Jesus
of fun.
Christ. Dude, those kind of...
Jesus.
Hung out with a lot of those kind of...
Cruising for Christ?
Hell yeah. Oh, that's so funny. It's also cool to see how far it's come as a culture, you know what I mean? Like, that it is getting disassociated with, like, gang life and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I mean, here's the thing. Is like, I understand people's complaints about it. I was reading up on, like, why these, like, laws were being made. And a lot of the heavy criticism was, like, there's a rise in crime rate. But that wasn't directly related to just people.
Right.
People were just worried about crime in general. But also there was stuff where, like, people would urinate on buildings and,
Right,
like,
that always ruins it
start
for
trouble.
everyone.
It's like, yeah. Here's my thing, right? A few bad apples doesn't ruin them. Why?
I'll take it easy.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. How come a few bad apples only works for one group of people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Well,
when it's
The statement is
brown
a
kids,
a few bad apples spoil the bunch, right?
Yeah.
right? Which is also another issue with that phrase too. When they're like, "It's just a few bad apples," and it's like, yeah, the phrase is it ruins it for everybody.
Yeah, that's. But I was saying to say real quick that like it's cool to see how far it's come. Like I was just reading about New Mexico, Albuquerque, the police department like sanctioned a specific task force for like cruising and making sure like cruising stuff is
They like
chill.
lead it.
Yeah, they've completely like switched their stance on it. Like they even have a police lowrider car that's like
pretty
all
tight.
like lowridered out.
Look, that sounds tight, but okay, how much money did they put into that?
Right, probably.
Yeah, the lowrider department.
It was very expensive.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
Yeah. And also the ban was crazy because it was like you couldn't pass the same spot more than 3 times within 6 hours.
The hell?
How do you
6
even
hours.
enforce that?
That's what they would have they would have cops
That's the frustrating thing.
sitting
about all
and
this.
monitoring cars, tracking cars.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's absolutely.
Yeah, because it's like over policed, over targeted. But then there's
say
like
that again.
it's like it's crazy because it's just like of course over policed, over targeted. But then Hell's Angels and like
Let's not
real,
get into-
huh? Not
No,
the-
I'm just kidding.
Those
sorry.
are some fine gentlemen.
It's a fine charitable
There's
organization.
other real vehicle gangs out there.
Oh, they're not gangs. We're just,
Another
It's
cut
a
is just me and
social
Josh.
It's a club.
yeah. Ricky's gone now.
Ricky's gone. It's just Ryan and
We
Josh.
gotta get a clean plate.
We're like shaking, like we love everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's real crimes happening. This is where it gets bogged down. But it was like the thing that the biggest thing about this is that there is so much culture like steeped into, and there is so much culture baked into cruising, especially for Chicanos. It's like all of the art, the clothing styles, the music styles. Like it is all, it's all part of it. It's kind of like how like hip hop is music. Scratching, graffiti, art,
like it has elements.
yeah, there's pillars,
Yeah.
and cruising is all part of that, and
history. There's like a straight up history involved, with like record keeping almost in a weird way, or like storytelling more.
what?
Well, that's what I was talking about with the lowrider stuff, where they literally are using these cars. And there's also another thing where like they use these cars and they make them all nice and they use them for charity to like
Right.
support their community.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
There's all kinds of cool stuff they do.
Yeah,
And you see one with like the stations of the cross around the lowrider.
there's so like, but a lot of the laws were like it was kind of crazy laws that were being like passed to like ban cruising.
I was trying to look it up and I was having trouble finding the actual like legislation for it because I don't know if it's because the laws changed now.
I just know it was in 1988 that it happened, and it was just like banning cruising. But that's why it's an issue, because it's like there's a broad definition of what becomes cruising, and then it becomes now you have a broad crime.
Mm-hmm.
So now if somebody's driving a lowrider in general, like they're getting stopped.
Yeah.
No, like you passed this spot in 3 times in, was it 6 hours?
It's like, I'm doing DoorDash, fool.
These wings need to keep their even flavor.
They're getting
It's a trunk full of
sauce.
slurry.
Yeah, man, what'd you say?
A trunk full of slurry.
Yeah, it's just like but it's also just like this aggressive. They would close off certain streets at certain times. They would like put up barriers. You know, they would have cops sitting outside counting how many times people pass by the area. Like,
That's crazy.
yeah, it's wild. But then I was reading about like how other states and certain other cities outside of California were trying stuff out where they would like. They're like, okay, they want to do, because here's the thing. Some businesses were complaining that these kids are causing trouble.
Right.
Neighborhoods would complain.
It's going to happen.
But then other businesses, like when they started banning stuff or when they started shutting down streets, they're like, I'm losing business now. Bob's Big Boy isn't selling enough burgers because now the kids aren't coming because there's no cruising. So like it's a thing where it's like, okay, we like this thing. There's some issues with it. How do we solve this, right? What do we do? And like what some people tried was like, they're like, okay, let's kind of encourage people to like cruise on certain streets that won't impede general traffic, or like let's make a dedicated lot. Like I forgot, it was like a city in Missouri that like made a dedicated lot for cruising, like a parking lot, so that people could hang out and like they could set up businesses there and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like community-based resolution.
It's like
right?
trunk or treat, but for the lowriders.
Yeah, that's where like associations and like I forget the type of name for it, but like clubs of like enthusiasts would gather and form, and these were the biggest advocates for reversing the bans and regulations. I thought it was funny because these groups are just like a bunch of older, like former, some of them are former cholos, but all of them were just like older, like vatos. The way they spoke was like so softly. It was really funny. They would be like, yeah, man, they just misunderstood us. Like we weren't causing trouble. We just liked cars. And it was really funny.
I feel like there's a Chicano of a certain era that like they talk from the front of their teeth. I don't know. Sorry, everybody. I wish I could do it. I wish I could. If you know what I'm talking about.
If you can't do it.
I know. I'm sorry. I was hoping somebody knew what I would. Somebody
What
in
era?
that era,
Like the 50s?
That era.
the 60s, the 70s,
Weird, their
the
voices were so.
like Los Angeles Chicanos from like the 60s talk a very specific way. They almost sound like Tejano, but they're not.
I think I know what you mean. I also can't do that voice.
But they like enunciate their T's a lot. Like, I don't know.
No,
It's somebody that is listening to this or watching this knows what I'm talking about. And please back me up. God damn it.
yeah, because right
we
now,
all agree.
Please
we
believe me.
We all agree. We just wish you could do the voice.
I know.
You know who does? I think there's old videos. I don't think he does them anymore. He was doing them during quarantine, but Frankie Quinones does a specific. That one is more Tejano, but he has a character where he used to do these like filters, and the one was like a baby filter. But one of them was like a trucker hat with a big mustache and sideburns. And he would be like, yeah, you know, my lady, she fucking left. It was hilarious. Look up Frankie Quinones in 2020. Go there and you'll find it. And he's funny. And he does the impression.
After us, finish this episode, please.
Yes, please. God.
Watch this episode twice and then go watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave a comment, please. It
Do
helps
both at
us
the same
so
time.
much.
But
Also follow us on Instagram at Un Poquito Pod. Send us an email at unpoquitopod@gmail.com. We're on TikTok as well. Share us with your friends. If you'd like to join us on Discord, the link's for free in the description.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And always respect the land. So stupid.
I mean, it's exciting. I had a phase in like high school where I thought I could get into cars.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to be, but I'm just not.
I think you just have to love it.
Yeah.
I was in like I took a mechanics course my senior year, and I did well. I got like a B- overall, but I can't remember any of it.
Yeah. There is just something, I don't know, there's something about like Cadillacs and lowriders and like that. The visual of it is just like so like baked in, like I said. Like it's so like it makes me feel like that's part of like what I grew up. It's always been around. There's all these like little things that I feel like when I've grown up, even though I've not participated in a lot of it, it's just like I love to see it. It reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of like my culture. It's kind of like that fun connection. And it would be cool to see, like to go and experience it in person. And like they'll probably do like scheduled cruising or whatever. And like
I have a little bit of lowrider experience with Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Oh yeah.
Paint spray.
I never got into.
What were your colors?
Green, bro. I was Grove Street. Grove Street till I die.
That lowrider green though.
Yeah,
is
fire.
nice.
Cherry paint or all that stuff, all that pearlescent.
Yeah, I mean that's a cool thing that happened in California.
Hell yeah, dude! Shout out lowriders.
Yeah, a major part of LA history has been restored, and culture has been revitalized. It'll be really nice.
Damn,
Have you seen? They're not called lowriders. They're called something else, but they're trucks that play with hydraulics. Like think of like a pickup truck, but like those smooth kind of round ones, and the bed dislocates from the cab, and they like dance like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And instead of the car going up and down itself, it's just the bed. It's just like
it's like the truck is twerking.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
That's lowrider stuff, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's
It's
still
just
I think
lowrider.
it's kind of evolved, but yeah.
That's also the thing. That's another part of the ban was that there was another thing where like modifications, the ban on modifications also was released. So like,
yeah, they lifted certain things.
Yeah.
I think it's complete.
Yeah,
I think it has to do with the how low your car can be to the floor.
Right.
I also like it has nothing to do with this really, but I think it would be really funny if you had that truck and it was filled with groceries, and you're just driving by and you're like just destroy groceries around it. It's a bad YouTube prank, but
YouTube prank.
Someone's got to do it.
My groceries. No.
You seen that video on Fool's Gone Wild, where that fool went wild?
That fool wild.
That was crazy.
That was so dumb. That might have been one of the dumbest things you've ever said.
No, it was you seen that video of that guy that proposed to his girlfriend with the lowrider, and it was like doing the bounce.
No.
They do this thing where they try to bounce as high as they can so that it sits on the ass, and like you could see under the car. And so they did that, and on the bottom of the car it says, "Will you marry me?"
Oh,
damn.
Yeah.
He's like, no, stand right here.
Right? It's like taking a minute, like,
Hold on.
Don't look back yet.
don't.
Will?
Like this, what is it?
Honestly, that kind of leads into our next story because like we were talking about, because of the ban, the law, there is a lot of heavy discrimination of cops on like Chicanos and Latinos. It was like a heavily targeted law. I mean, you have to also remember that this law, the culture was started during the time of like the Chicano movement, where people were fighting for like education and stuff, and are already being discriminated against. And so like this carried out. The ban happened in the 80s, but these laws, there was laws before this and those ordinances that like heavily targeted Latinos.
Yeah.
And once you do like broad definitions like this, like cops can stop you for whatever and like charge you seemingly with whatever they want, you know. And that kind of goes into the next story that we're talking about, which Ricky has for us.
Yeah, there's a story that happened about like 7-8 months ago of a young man named Virgilio Aguilar Mendez. He's an 18-year-old from Florida, and he was stopped I believe outside of a Motel 6. Sorry, there's a mosquito. That's. I believe he was stopped outside of a Motel 6. He was at least staying there, maybe even living there for the time being. He was a farm worker of Mayan. He's a Mayan. He speaks mostly Mayan and some Spanish and obviously no English. And he was stopped by a police officer for apparently being suspicious there. And this Sergeant Kasinovich stopped him and was trying to talk to him, but he was trying to explain that, he doesn't really speak Spanish very well or English, and he was trying to walk away because also he was just staying there. He hasn't done anything wrong.
Right.
And an incident occurred. There's a struggle, and there's multiple officers, and they tased and beat Virgilio. And after the incident, Sergeant Kasinovich fell to the ground of a heart attack and passed away.
Right.
But the charges after that, they charged Virgilio with aggravated manslaughter for Kusinovich suffering a heart attack and passing away.
So pretty much because he had to go through the struggle
Yes,
in the
they're
first
blaming it on
place,
him.
they're blaming it on him.
Yeah.
So if he had complied,
I
then it
believe
wouldn't have,
that's the argument.
ostensibly it wouldn't have happened. That's like, I remember, recall hearing a story, I could be wrong, and I wish I would have brought up the article, but I just remember there was a story about, like, I think it was in New York, where cops, like, beat a person,
Yeah.
and they got blood on the uniforms, and they charged him with assault for getting blood on their uniforms.
Yeah, this stuff is wild. Like,
That's
crazy.
alleged. I don't know. I can't back that
That
up.
sounds crazy.
I
Yeah.
mean, it does sound, that one sounds pretty crazy, but I'm also not surprised by hearing stuff like this because I saw this on TikTok. I also looked up the news articles that are older than the TikTok that I saw.
Who's the username? That
It
you
was
posted?
Gen Z X El Cambio on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And they also said that Sergeant, what was it? The sergeant after the fact. So there's Sergeant Kasinovich, and
Right.
there was the county sheriff, Robert Hardwick. Apparently, according to this TikToker, had lied and said he pulled a knife, and that he was being arrested for trespassing, but he was not trespassing. And I haven't been able to find the exact body cam. At the very least, the medical examiner admitted from this source that he died of natural causes from the heart attack,
Right.
and no weapon was used on him. In fact, the sergeant wasn't hurt. It was just Virgilio that was hurt. He's been in jail for 7 months without bail up to now.
What was the cop's name again?
Oh, Kasinovich?
More like Kacinda, bitch, fool. Fuck that fool. It just there's the thing with, like, it's really interesting that it's particularly here's the thing is we have to always keep in mind about our most vulnerable demographics,
Yeah.
right? Our most vulnerable communities. There's a lot of stuff happening for Latinos, in media and in education, and in a lot of ways we've been seeing a lot of benefits, a lot of more acceptance of the culture. But there's this weird thing happening, particularly with immigrants, particularly with indigenous people, or people that are more connected to their indigenous cultures. Like, they're still very
Vulnerable.
yeah, and these things are just like, we have to remember that these things are still happening to them, and like keep in mind, like, and make sure that we're looking out for other people and not just promote, like, all of this stuff with media and fucking Blue Beetle and Wednesday and these Bad Bunny and stuff. Like, all of this stuff has been great, and it's cool to see our culture accepted in these ways and popularized. But, like, it's important to see that these things are still happening to people. This story kind of struck me because I remember a story from 2015. I had read this news article in 2015, and I remember getting sick to my stomach. I almost vomited. So this was also in Florida, but it was in a place called Jupiter, Florida. And in 2015, there was a large population of Guatemalan immigrants, and a lot of them are there undocumented. They're there to work, and there's racist people that are attacking them and discriminating against them. And there's a term in Jupiter, Florida called guat hunting.
Jesus.
And like people would round up in their trucks and drive around looking for Guatemalans, looking for immigrants, and like attack them. And so there was this guy named David Harris that he's the one name that I remember, but he at the time I think was like 22, and it was him and like 3 or 4 other people, and they found this guy named Onesimo, I think Onesimo Lopez, and they attacked him and they killed him, and they like chopped him up with an axe. Jeez. And it wasn't until 2018, fortunately, you know, I don't know. It's justice is such a hard, complex issue, but you know, they claim self-defense. They tried to claim self-defense that he attacked them, and like they had to kill him. You know,
would they chopped him up?
They chopped him up
in self-defense. That's crazy.
Yeah,
man. Fuck that.
And you know, David Harris ended up getting life in prison for that, and you know, it feels like justice was served, but it's still like it doesn't bring back this kid who was a teenager when he died, you know. And I remember reading this story, the fact that there's a term called guat hunting, like I almost vomited. Like these are how people are being seen. And so like to see this happening to this 18-year-old kid who's just here to work, like literally just trying to survive, you know, who knows. It's always these things, particularly with cops, where it comes down to like if he just complied or whatever, or it's this thing of the needing to comply and needing to appease power structures, and the discrimination that like black people especially face.
Yeah, because you know, even just going back to like the lowrider laws, the cruising laws, like they're very targeted laws. Because I've had people in my life or friends or whatever that just be like, yeah, if you just follow the rules, it's like, yeah, but you don't have to worry about how strict the rules are on you. Like you know, I talk about like just your average like white American isn't as concerned about the laws being fair.
I think I agree and disagree.
What do you? Yeah, what expand?
I don't know. It's a huge conversation what I'm talking about, because these white fools get their gun laws get fucking stricter and stricter, and they hate that shit.
Every law that affects them affects everybody.
Yeah, that's
every law that affects
gun laws affects everybody.
Every law that affects these communities don't affect them.
Not inherently.
Not inherently.
You know, and they're also not weaponized against white people the way that they are, and we can look at the statistics of them the way that they are weaponized.
Because like I had a weird interaction with someone before where she was really mad about, like, for instance, like, this is getting a little bit off topic, but it's kind of the same thing, where there was this girl who got her hair braided for doing really good in school, the little black girl. She got red colored hair in her braids. The rest was black. I believe that was the story. I think it was maybe in Texas or something somewhere. And the school suspended her until she got rid of that in her braids. Right. And it's like, sure, there's rules, and this person was like, just follow the rules, stop making everything about race. It's like, but those rules will never affect you. This isn't the same experience that she's going to go through. And comparing it to the things you like this person I'm talking about is a woman, and they're going to police how they wear stuff, but that hair stuff is inherently policed against black people.
For sure.
And that will never affect her, and she was never going to see that.
Yeah, like that. I remember this was a while back, but it's a very similar thing where there was a black wrestler who had to chop his hair off on the mat so that he could wrestle, so he wouldn't forfeit, because they were like, your hairstyle is not acceptable.
And it's like,
yeah, that's weird. That's weird for sure. But I do know there was a period of time where like that all weird hair stuff was like condemned, even for white people. They were like hair dye, long hair. That was all like considered to be like counterculture.
Sure. And I'm not saying that they're never policed.
No, I was just pointing
Similarly,
it out.
yeah.
That stuff.
It's just
I mean, there are stuff for sure, but like the extent of like, this is going into a little bit different thing when we're talking about braids. We're talking about cultural hairstyles.
Yeah, that's why I
afros.
was trying to like.
yeah, I didn't
You
mean
know,
to
there
derail
is,
this.
but again, this is what Ricky was saying about those rules and those laws or whatever. Those things that affect white people also affect everybody else. But these things about like having cultural hairstyles does not affect white people.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Like anybody getting mad about braids is insane to me. So I don't get that.
Yeah, but they're closer to you than you think.
And this is, you know, we talk about cops and it's a divisive issue, but you know, I'm not going to say the phrase, but the reason why I have such an issue with cops is because of that power that they wield and that they're able to do this. And these are just stories that we know about, that we come across somehow. And I know that there's private citizens that are harming each other, that are doing stuff that we don't know about. These things happen all the time, but that's not an institutional power.
Yeah.
And there isn't a history of racism and discrimination within an institutional power. And, you know, this sheriffs just lied.
Yeah,
you know,
that's crazy.
They just straight up lied, and they lose he lost a friend, they lost a coworker, they lost a part of their team, a part of their life, and that's sad, and they're blaming this guy, you know.
Yeah.
I wanting to work, I don't know what they went through, you know.
It's interesting.
But they could have been angry and wanted to blame this kid and thought if he would have just complied that the sergeant or whoever would have still been there. But it's like, it's not this kid's fault, and you can't take out your frustration. First of all, you brutalized this kid in the first place.
Yeah.
That doesn't speak your language, and there's seemingly like no efforts being made to see if like this kid, if we can get him a translator or what, you know. The first reaction, the reaction that they took was to beat him up, and to tase him.
And it's interesting because it kind of dips into like people with disabilities, like, you know, deaf people have been assaulted by cops because they're like, you weren't listening, and they're like, how? They can't hear you.
Yeah,
you came from behind. That's a little different, but there is something I saw recently of like, you know, I don't think cops get along as much as they do. they seem to, because I saw this cop on TikTok. You know, he's like, yes, this is a job, but this isn't all who I am. If you don't have normal friends, this thing, being a cop's gonna kind of corrupt you if you're not also a normal person. And it was just like an interesting point of view to hear it from a cop saying that, because he's also like, a lot of us don't even get along. The only time we can get along is when a cop dies. And I was just like, I haven't seen that point of view yet. And I wish I would have kept that account in mind, because
cops beef it a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, yeah. It's just like, it's frustrating that they do get along when one of them dies for the wrong reason at times.
Yeah, one thing that I think Ricky already mentioned, but it was the thing that stuck with me, was the claim of the knife up until body cam footage was released, and then they try to backtrack it. But there is an aspect in there of like claims that aren't substantiated, and how that's kind of not a super common occurrence, but it is an occurrence.
It is a super common occurrence.
Yeah.
Look, I'm speaking of my own personal bias, so maybe I'm wrong. I feel like we've just seen so much of it throughout the years that there's so many, especially when it comes to the sheriff's department. Like, people, I don't know if people understand the difference between sheriffs and the police department, but the sheriffs are elected officials, and their departments, because they're elected, don't have to give over reports. They don't have to give over any statistics, anything to the public, because they're elected officials. LAPD do, and that's like the one thing that we do have on like localized police departments.
Didn't know
is that it's a government entity, so that they have to give up all of this public information at some point. But sheriffs are not under the same requirements, because it's an elected department. And so it's like there are, because of the stuff that we've just seen so much of throughout the years, and like just I mean, if you just think about history in general, how rough and how racist this country has been in general, the things that were acceptable, the things, this is my, I don't want to get too deep into it, but it's like even things about jokes and like the language that we use and the culture, the way that we viewed people. If we look back 10, 15, 20 years, like super recently, you could see how this country, like how society just saw race in general, and look at that and understand how it's possible that there are so many, there's so much that we haven't heard. So that's why I say, like, I believe wholeheartedly that it occurs, it's a super occurrence all the time, you know. I don't know what these are times where I kind of feel a little helpless because I don't know what I can do myself.
I mean, this is a way, and maybe like Ryan was talking about, the other way is to be like Alex Enamorado. Maybe, I don't know, that's going to be another topic, but there's people like that are fighting it.
Yeah, we're going to get into them later. I know
Yeah.
we can expand on that because...
But there's other people we could reference, like my undocumented ass. I think what he means is like just bringing attention to it, making people...
Yeah.
There are
have to
people
look
that,
at it.
yeah, because there's people that, like, we could bring attention to this stuff, and there's also people we could bring attention to the people doing the fighting, like, and legally.
Yeah, I guess just what are the ways, I know, what are the ways that we can contribute directly, you know. I do believe that there's importance of talking about it and spreading awareness. That's like a first step, but it's like, you know, go to protest, go be active in the community that you're in, look out for your neighbors, you know, and I mean, I don't know. It especially when you're going up against an entity like the cops or like a sheriff's department. Cops receive exorbitant percentages of city funding in many, if not most, cities.
Yeah.
The sheriff's department also has their own like funding and their own requirement rules, and it's like, how do you combat this like big broad system?
There's one way to combat it.
What's that?
Beat his shit, dog. Would you quit giving me your left?
I'm holding the mic.
Switch hands.
I'm right-handed.
It's too late.
I'm trying to support my friends. Give me your left, fool.
No, you're not supposed to shake with your left. That's disrespectful.
Why?
Because of India. Sorry. That's a really deep.
They
Yeah,
have
yeah.
one hand for wiping.
Yeah, they use it's
Yeah,
disrespectful
yeah.
to shake people's hands in India with your left hand.
I thought
Yeah.
that was like a whole jousting thing.
But
I'm
anyway.
sure it has multiple things. That was just a joke. I'm sorry.
I know that there's a petition on change.org for Virgilio, so we're going to include that in the description of this episode. Small thing that we can do. I believe there's a Kickstarter or something for legal funds. I don't know. I've only just heard about this story super recently.
I just heard about it too.
So I don't know. As of recording, I don't know all the ins and outs of what's about. So we'll do a little bit of research by the time this comes out, and hopefully we'll have more information for listeners included in the description. Yeah, you know, I know this is a little bit heavy, but this is the reality of stuff. I know there's stuff like people want us to talk about Palestine, and there's a lot of stuff that needs awareness right now that's going on in the world. And I'm going to speak for myself right now. We won't get super deep into it. We're going to talk about it another time. But I'll just say for myself right now, it is my stance personally, free Palestine. I don't support the Israeli occupation.
I agree.
You know, I'm not going to have anybody else say anything because we'll get into it later. But, you know, it's just like there's so much stuff going on in the world right now that's like, we need to be aware, and there's ways. It's tough, and it's easy to feel powerless, but all we have is each other, and all we have is our communities, and I don't know, we need to keep finding ways to support each other and look out for one another and do what we can to be helpful.
No, I think you nailed it. Like these are pretty heavy topics, but we do have each other, and you can do more in the ways you can. Just like you're saying.
Yeah.
And there's more than one way to help. I mean, there's visibility, there's like donations, there's like having difficult conversations. I mean, yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound fun, but it doesn't sound like super like profound. But I think sometimes it's the simpler stuff that's a real solution.
I think that's the thing that's lost in a lot of this. It begins to feel helpless, and it's easy to forget that we do have each other, and we should be there for each other.
Yeah. You guys want a hug later?
We can hug it out right now, dog.
Get up.
But yeah,
Before we do,
I just want to let everybody know, I appreciate all the support that people have shown us throughout all of this, throughout our time, and the friendships that we've made through doing this, and like want people to. There's a lot of people talking right now about just everything going on, and it's pretty heavy. And I know that people feel lost, or they feel afraid, or they feel some type of way,
yeah, I mean, even just like researching this stuff, it's a lot. It's kind of like overload of all the things happening. And I know that sometimes it's like, well, where do you start? Which one do you choose? But as long as you are trying, I think that's enough, And I don't think that you should have to worry about how much you're trying for every single thing, because one person can't do it all by themselves. Like you were saying,
there's no single person or single action that's gonna change everything, solve everything.
Exactly. So as long as you're doing what you can do, you're doing enough.
Yeah.
And on that note, from us, un poquito.
Don't
Don't fly.
See ya.